I remember when I was young, watching my grandfather struggle just to get out of his chair. He was barely in his 70s, but he moved like a man much older. Back then, I believe that was just the way life went. You get old. You slow down. Your body gives up. That was the script everyone followed, and I never questioned it. But here I am, 90 years old, and I feel like I did at 50. My friends, doctors, and even my own family look at me like I am some kind of miracle. But let me tell you, this is no miracle. It is no secret potion or some fancy new diet. It is something no doctor will ever tell you because, quite frankly, they do not know. I was not always like this. In my 60s, I started feeling the weight of age creeping in. My back ached. My knees protested with every step. I was slowing down, just like everyone else. Then one day, something hit me like a lightning bolt. I was sitting in my chair, staring at the television, and I realized I was waiting. Waiting for the next ache. Waiting for time to take its toll. Waiting for the slow decline. And I asked myself, what if I just stopped waiting? What if I refused to play by the rules everyone else seemed to accept? That moment changed everything. The first thing I did was get moving. And I do not mean jogging or lifting weights like a young man. I just moved. I walked. I stretched. I bent down to touch my toes, even when my body resisted. I treated my body like it was still young, and guess what? It started to believe me. People assume aging is just about the body breaking down, but that is only half the story. The other half is the mind. When you tell yourself you are old, your body listens. It starts shutting down. But when you tell yourself you are still strong, still capable, something incredible happens. Your body starts fighting for you instead of against you. I also stopped eating like an old man. I did not follow some fancy diet or count calories like a scientist. I just ate real food. The kind my grandmother used to make. Fresh vegetables. Fruits. Nuts. Meat that was not pumped full of chemicals. And most importantly, I ate only when I was hungry. Not because the clock told me it was time to eat. My whole life, I had been stuffing myself without thinking. But when I started listening to my body, everything changed. The bloating disappeared. The sluggishness faded. My energy came back like an old friend I had not seen in years. And then there is the part no doctor ever talks about. The part that really makes the difference. Purpose. I have seen too many men retire and fall apart. Not because their bodies gave out, but because their reason for getting up in the morning disappeared. So I made a promise to myself. I would never retire from life. I would always have something to chase. A goal. A project. A reason to wake up excited. When I turned 70, I learned to play the guitar. When I turned 80, I started fixing up old furniture. Now at 90, I wake up every day eager to see what I can do next. That is what keeps me young. Not some magic pill. Not a doctor's prescription. Just a fire inside that refuses to go out. The funny thing is, people think aging is this monster you have to fight. But that is the biggest lie of all. Aging is not the enemy. Fear is. The fear of moving too much. The fear of eating the wrong thing. The fear of trying something new. I threw that fear out the window, and I never looked back. I dance when I feel like it. I laugh loud and often. I spend time with people who make me feel alive, not those who drain me. I surround myself with energy, and it feeds me in ways no medicine ever could. People always ask me if I ever feel pain. And the truth is, of course I do. I am not invincible. My knees creak. My back tightens now and then. But I do not let it define me. I do not sit in a chair and surrender. I move. I breathe. I push through, because the moment you stop moving, that is when you start dying. I have seen it happen too many times. A man gives into his aches, and before he knows it, he is in a wheelchair, then a hospital bed, then gone. Not me. Not ever. Doctors will tell you to take it easy as you age. To rest more. To be careful. But let me tell you something. If I had followed that advice, I would not be here today, feeling like I did 4 decades ago. The secret no doctor will tell you is that you have more control over your body than you think. Your body is not the one giving up on you. You are giving up on it. And when you stop giving up, when you start fighting back, everything changes. I wish I could take every man and woman who feels old and shake them awake. I wish I could make them see that they do not have to accept weakness as their fate. But all I can do is share my story and hope someone out there listens. If you are reading this, let this be the sign you have been waiting for. Get up. Move. Eat like you care about yourself. Find something that makes you excited to wake up in the morning. Refuse to let fear and laziness rob you of another day. Because once you start living like this, you will understand why I say, at 90, I feel like 50. And trust me, you can too. Now, let's clear some common questions. What would you say to someone who feels trapped in an aging body and believes it is too late to change? Ah, my friend. Sit with me a while and listen, for I have walked this path longer than most and have seen what the passing years can do to a man's spirit. You speak of feeling trapped in an aging body, of believing it is too late to change. I tell you now, such thoughts are the whisperings of fear and resignation, not of truth. I have known men who surrendered to that voice too soon, allowing their bones to stiffen, their passions to fade, and their dreams to gather dust. But I have also known those who defied it. Men and women who, with hair turned silver and hands lined with time, still found the fire within them to rise, to change, to begin anew. There was a time when I, too, felt the weight of my years pressing down upon me like an old and heavy cloak. I woke one morning and found my knees ached, my back protested, and the mirror reflected a stranger with tired eyes. I thought to myself, this is it. The best of life is behind me. The road ahead is but a slow march toward stillness. And for a while, I believed it. I moved less, I spoke of the past more than the future, and I let the days pass me by like a man watching the river flow, thinking himself too old to wade in its waters. But then, one evening, as I sat watching the sun sink below the horizon, a thought struck me. The world was still moving. The birds still sang. The wind still danced through the trees. Life had not stopped. Only I had. It is not the body that traps us, my friend. It is the mind. The body may grow older, but it is the mind that decides whether we are finished or merely beginning anew. I have seen men in their 80s climb mountains. I have seen women with wrinkled hands paint masterpieces. I have seen souls who, well past their so-called prime, have learned new languages, fallen in love, mastered instruments, and embarked on journeys that would have seemed impossible even in their youth. The truth is that change does not ask for youth. It asks only for willingness. The moment you believe it is too late is the very moment you shut the door on possibility. Perhaps you feel the weight of past regrets, the burden of years spent in ways you now wish you had done differently. I understand that pain. But tell me this. If you had a garden and neglected it for 20 years, would you then refuse to plant flowers because of the lost time? Or would you dig your hands into the earth and begin again, knowing that beauty can still bloom? It is the same with life. Time may have passed, but time also remains. And what you do with it is still yours to decide. You say your body has changed, that it does not move as it once did. That is the way of all living things. The oak tree does not lament that it is no longer a sapling. It simply stands tall, adapting to the wind, stretching toward the sun in whatever way it can. You do not have the body of your youth, but you have the wisdom of your years. You have a mind filled with experience, a heart that has weathered storms and still beats strong. You may not run as fast, but you can walk with purpose. You may not lift as heavy a weight, but you can still build, create, and shape the world around you in ways that matter. The mistake many make is in believing that change must be grand, that it must come in sweeping gestures and dramatic shifts. But change is often found in the smallest of things. A decision to move a little more each day. A choice to speak kinder words to oneself. A commitment to learning something new, even if only a single lesson at a time. The body responds to movement, no matter how late you begin. The mind responds to challenge, no matter how many years have passed. The heart responds to love, to connection, to purpose. And purpose, my friend, is never reserved for the young. Do not measure your worth by the speed of your steps or the smoothness of your skin. Measure it by the depth of your laughter, the strength of your kindness, the courage with which you face each new day. I have seen too many good men waste the years they had left by believing they had none. I tell you now, as one who has walked long upon this earth, that the only moment truly lost is the one we refuse to claim. You are not trapped. You are standing at the edge of a choice. You can continue to sit in the shadows of what was, mourning the years gone by. Or you can step forward, however slowly, however carefully, into what still can be. The body may protest, the mind may resist, but neither has the final say. That belongs to you. So rise, my friend. In whatever way you can, rise. The world is still here. And it is waiting for you. How do you stay mentally sharp and emotionally strong when so many people your age struggle with memory loss and depression? Ah, my friend. You ask me how I stay mentally sharp and emotionally strong when so many others my age struggle with memory loss and depression. It is a question worth asking, and I will tell you not only what I have learned, but what I have lived. For I have seen men and women who, as the years piled upon them, allowed their minds to grow as weak as their bodies, their spirits as heavy as their bones. And I have seen others who, despite the gray in their hair and the lines on their faces, walked with the fire of youth still burning within them. I tell you now, the difference between them was never simply fate or luck. It was choice. I have lived long enough to know that the mind is like a garden. Leave it unattended, and the weeds of forgetfulness and despair will creep in. Neglect to nourish it, and it will wither before its time. But tend to it, challenge it, fill it with new knowledge and purpose, and it will flourish no matter how many seasons have passed. This is a truth I learned early, watching my own elders either fade into the background of their lives or fight, with quiet determination, to remain engaged with the world around them. I decided long ago which path I would take. Every morning, before I even step out of bed, I remind myself that I am still here. This may sound simple, but I tell you, it is powerful. Too many people wake up lamenting their age, mourning their aches, counting the things they have lost. I choose, instead, to count what remains. My breath. My thoughts. My ability to make something of this day, no matter how small. Gratitude is the first weapon against decline, for a mind that focuses on what is still possible will fight harder to stay alert, to stay alive. I keep my mind sharp by using it. This, too, is something many forget. They retire from work and, thinking they have earned their rest, they cease to challenge themselves. They stop reading new books. They stop learning new skills. They stop asking questions, debating ideas, seeking out knowledge beyond what they already know. They sit too long in silence, and the mind, having nothing to do, begins to decay like an unused muscle. I will not allow it. Each day, I read. Sometimes it is a book, sometimes a newspaper, sometimes even a difficult passage that requires me to furrow my brow and think. I write, even if only a few lines in a journal. I engage in conversations that make me think, that force me to listen, to respond, to sharpen my wit and memory. And when I do forget something, as all men do, I do not surrender to it. I work to recall it. I stretch my mind like an old warrior stretches his limbs before battle, refusing to let it grow stiff with disuse. But the mind alone is not enough. The heart, my friend, must be tended to just as carefully. I have seen loneliness break men faster than time ever could. I have seen sadness settle into bones and make them heavy, make them tired, make them stop moving long before their bodies were truly finished. I keep my heart strong by keeping it connected to others. I reach out to friends, even when they do not reach out first. I make conversation with strangers, for there is always something new to learn from another soul. I do not let myself become invisible, for that is how a man truly begins to fade. Laughter is another shield against decline. Too many my age carry their years like a burden, frowning at the world, scolding the young, lamenting the past. I will not do it. I laugh as often as I can, sometimes at my own foolishness, sometimes at the simple joys that still surround me. I let myself be surprised, be delighted, be moved. A heart that still feels deeply is a heart that will not grow old, no matter what the calendar says. And then, of course, there is movement. The body and mind are not as separate as some believe. When I move, even if only for a walk, my mind feels clearer. My emotions feel lighter. Stagnation is the enemy, in both body and spirit. I stretch, I breathe deeply, I refuse to let myself sit still for too long. Even on days when my knees ache, when my back complains, I remind myself that a body in motion stays in motion, and I move. I have also learned not to dwell too long on regret. Regret is a heavy thing, and I have seen it break many who could not put it down. We all have things we wish we had done differently, words we wish we had spoken or left unsaid. But to carry them forever is to chain oneself to the past, and I prefer to walk forward, even if my steps are slower than they once were. Perhaps the greatest lesson I have learned is this. A man is not his age. He is his choices. He is the way he meets the day, the way he speaks to himself, the way he keeps his mind engaged and his heart open. The world will try to tell you that aging is a slow march toward irrelevance, but I tell you now, that is a lie. As long as you have breath in your lungs, you have purpose. As long as you have thoughts in your mind, you have value. As long as you have love to give, you have a place in this world. I do not claim to have all the answers, but I know what has worked for me. I wake up with gratitude. I challenge my mind. I keep my heart open. I move my body. I laugh. I stay connected. I forgive myself for my past mistakes. And I refuse to let the number of years behind me dictate the life still ahead. So when you ask me how I stay sharp, how I stay strong, this is my answer. I choose to. And so can you. If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice about aging, what would it be? If I could go back in time and stand before the younger version of myself, that restless, ambitious, impatient man who thought life stretched endlessly before him, I would look him in the eye and say, "Take care of the days, for they will slip through your fingers faster than you think." He would laugh at me, I am sure. He would shake his head, dismissing my words with the arrogance of youth, certain that time was an abundant thing, something to be spent without thought. I know this because I was him. I remember that foolish certainty, that belief that aging was something that happened to other people, to old men sitting on porches with faraway eyes. Not to me, not yet. But now I stand on the other side of those years, looking back down the long road I have traveled, and I understand what he did not. I understand that every choice, every habit, every moment of care or neglect was a thread in the great tapestry of my life. I understand that aging does not arrive all at once, like a sudden storm, but rather in small, quiet moments. The first gray hair. The first time the body takes a little longer to recover. The first morning when you wake up and realize your knees ache before you even set foot on the ground. It is not a thief in the night. It is a slow tide, one that you do not notice rising until it has already reshaped the shore. If I could give that young man only one piece of advice, it would be this. Take care of yourself, not just your body, but your mind, your heart, your spirit. For every careless decision you make now will echo in ways you cannot yet see. The strength you take for granted today will not always be there. The friendships you assume will last forever will need tending, or they will fade like old photographs left too long in the sun. The dreams you push aside, thinking there is plenty of time, will one day look back at you with sadness, asking why you did not chase them when you had the chance. I would tell him to move his body every day, not because he must, but because he can. There will come a time when running feels like flying, and then, one day, it will not. When climbing stairs is effortless, and then, one day, it will take effort. He will not believe me, but I will tell him anyway. Take care of your legs, your back, your heart, because they will carry you for longer than you realize, and if you do not care for them, they will one day refuse to carry you at all. I would tell him to protect his mind, to feed it with knowledge, with curiosity, with challenge. To never fall into the trap of thinking he already knows enough. A mind that is not used, that is not stretched and questioned, will begin to shrink. I have seen men let their thoughts grow dull, let their curiosity wither, and by the time they realized what they had lost, it was too late to get it back. I would tell him to read, to debate, to learn, to keep his thoughts sharp as a blade, because one day, he will need that edge. And I would tell him to hold his people close. Oh, how I would tell him that. There were friends I let drift away, thinking there would always be time to reconnect. There were words I left unspoken, love I assumed did not need to be voiced, because surely, they already knew. But time, cruel and silent, stole those chances from me. Some people I never got to find again. Some words I never got to say. I would tell him that no one is guaranteed tomorrow, that the people who fill his life now are not permanent fixtures, and he must love them fiercely while he has the chance. I would tell him to chase joy with both hands. To laugh often, to find wonder in the simplest things. When he is young, he will think happiness is something grand, something waiting for him in the future, in success, in wealth, in achievement. But I would tell him that the greatest joys are in the little moments. The sound of laughter shared over a meal. The way the sky looks just before the sun disappears. The feel of a loved one's hand in his own. I would tell him to savor these things, to not let them slip by unnoticed, because in the end, these are the moments he will hold on to. And most of all, I would tell him not to fear time. There was a time when I thought aging was a loss, a slow surrender to the inevitable. But I see now that it is a gift. Every wrinkle, every scar, every gray hair is proof that I have lived, that I have fought and loved and laughed and survived. I would tell him that the goal is not to stay young forever, but to age with purpose, to arrive at the later years of life with no regrets, no unfinished business, no words left unsaid. I would stand before that young man, so full of fire and certainty, and I would place my hand on his shoulder. One day, I would say, "You will be me." And when that day comes, I want you to look back and know that you lived well. That you took care of what mattered. That you did not waste the gift of time. Because it is a gift, my son. And one day, it will run out. And then I would turn and walk away, leaving him to wrestle with those words, hoping that perhaps, just perhaps, he would listen. Because if he does, then when he stands where I stand now, he will not wish for more time. He will only smile, knowing that he used the time he had wisely, and that, my friend, is the greatest victory of all. If you liked today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with every video we release. And yes, don't forget to share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Every comment is special to us. Your feedback helps us improve further. We'll continue to meet you in every new video on this channel, so until next time, take care.